Hey everybody, welcome back to another. Oh, I was gonna check the. I wasn't called 9 years late, but I believe this was much older.
Yeah, this was like the first. This and the Tomb Kings book were the first ones to come out.
This is 11 years late. Welcome to the first 11 years late Orcs and Goblins Army Book review. I am joined today with my buddy Kyle. Kyle is Kyle, how are you from?
Haha.
Yeah.
I'm from Virginia in the United States, but I think what you mean is my YouTube channel, which is Squarehammer. Blue and I run that together. It's been a fun little thing for the last year and a half or so.
I've tried to shout out your channel every time I get a chance, or every time I remember, but you guys haven't checked out Squarehammer. There'll be a link in the description below. It's a YouTube channel. You get some more fancy bat reps. So Kyle and I, if I remember correctly, both started playing, we've both been playing fantasy for many. We both started playing Orcs right around the same time, right?
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
We never, I never ever played Orcs at all in the past. And then because my local hobby store had a couple things in stock, I went and bought a bunch of Orcs. And then you were messaging me saying you were working on an Orc project as well, or you just finished one. So we have
something.
Yeah, we have about the same experience, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I want to point out again, because there's always confusion in language when I do these things. So typically when I do a book review, I review from the standpoint of a competitive standpoint, but I have to actually break that down even more because that word means different things to different people. So, in my opinion, when you play miniature wargaming, there's different ways of playing. Obviously, there's just goofing around with your buddies, goofy scenarios, just do whatever you want type stuff. There's the narrative type stuff, and then there's the let's play a game we're both intending to win. Now that's competitive to me, but that also doesn't mean that I'm going to bring a Lariel and White Lions. That's not that's beyond competitive. That's the tournament standard to me. So when I say competitive, what I mean is we're talking about efficiency and how good things are compared to other things in the book. But we're not talking about we're going to make a list to go to the tournament. And then we talk about Warhammer Fantasy Battles, a game that has been discontinued for how many? 7? No. Closer to 8 years?
6.
No, closer isn't 8.
2015.
2015? No.
Wasn't that when it? I think that's when it happened.
Right, now I gotta Google.
I think it's 6 years ago.
Oh, wait a second.
End Time started before that.
Yeah. You're right. I don't have to Google that. I just remember something that aligns completely with that timeline. Okay, so the game's been discontinued for quite a bit. I forget the point I was trying to make with that. I think it was one with the fact. Next point was from a competitive standpoint, straight from a tournament standpoint, there's a bunch of different comp systems, which there are. We're both from North America, so we have six comps for the tournament. Well, had at the time. So we're not talking about that kind of stuff because literally once you add in a tournament comp from many years ago, you are changing a lot of the conversations. Now I don't know if you're very familiar with all the tournament comps, but I was not familiar with the Orc and Goblin one whatsoever. So I did a quick search and I was able to find the ETC, and they basically had none. They just got at the 2,400 point level, they got the extra 100 points in the tournament set. I don't know what that means. Is the book bad or good? Actually, okay, what's your opinion? Is the book bad or good? Where do you put the power level? If you're gonna put this just two guys playing, no comp system, high, mid, low tier.
I think this army can play up to a lot of different armies, but I think that it really limits you in the different types of army compositions that you can take if you want to have a strong list.
I agree.
But if you don't take that one strong list or two strong lists, this army, you might as well be playing Beastmen or Tomb Kings.
Ooh, I don't know if I agree with that.
And that's coming from somebody that plays Beastmen and Tomb Kings.
So, excuse me, if I had to go play a tournament right now and I wanted to win, I would not be bringing Orcs and Goblins. I'd be bringing my Hiles. But I would definitely, if I had to choose between Orcs and Goblins or Beastmen, I'll take the Orcs. Sure.
Yes, you would.
Now let's get into the army special rules. I think this is the only army that has special rules that's actually a negative. Well, can be a negative. There's animosity. Nobody else has an army special rule that's a drawback typically, correct? Unless you count the Beastmen having one that can put half their units in ambush, as long as they have, like, it's almost a nothing. It's a nothing special rule.
Rumble could be, I guess, considered negative.
Rumble?
Yeah,
Crumble. I heard rumble. Like, what were you... well, no, but see, crumble comes with unstable. Is unstable.
Okay, Tomb King's always... not being able to march.
That's true. I'll give you the Tomb King ones. I think unstable giving you crumble. Always is paired with unbreakable, so I think it's a fair trade.
That's fair.
Yeah, the unable to march Tomb King's thing. I'll give you that one. There's another one there. Okay, so how animosity works is at the start of your turn. I think it's before you declare charges, right? Yeah, it is. You have to roll a die for every one of your units that have 5 or more models. And if you roll a 1, your guys are basically squabbling. You roll a further d6, and if you roll a 1 again, they're doing nothing. Oh no, they attack the closest unit, friendly unit, doing damage back and forth. A couple of wounds are going to be caused. Not that big a deal, but basically doing nothing for the rest of the turn. 2 to 5 is they're going to do nothing for the rest of the turn, and then 6, which could win or cost you a game. You roll 6 after that failed animosity test. They have to move directly forward and then declare a charge if anything. In a game that's so movement heavy, movement tight, that can literally like just get you a charge you shouldn't have got, or it can put you way in a position in your game. You just lost your game.
Yeah, and it's not just the fact that the unit does nothing. It's the the real kind of issue that it creates is characters that are in that unit cannot do anything either.
Cast spells, it's real bad. Now
it's tough.
The good thing about the Will Show Them the 6 is, I actually didn't review this book before we started this thing. I never really do. But you actually pivot to face the closest enemy unit, so you end up doing, for some reason, charge behind you. Like, it can give you a massive boon, massive boost at a weird time, but more likely not, it's going to put you out of position. I've never seen the positive sides of that. Actually, that's not true. I did play a game against ogres once, and I had a turn 1 charge with the failed animosity of Boar Boy.
Did they die to the ogres that they charged?
They won the combat, and then the ogres ran away and caused panic, and more things ran away, and I won that game. But
that's like the one out of 1,000 scenario.
Well, no, but see, it wasn't even fair because this game was actually relatively recent on miniwargaming.com, and so many comments pointed out, you forgot those ogres were stubborn. They would have passed that test, and I would have lost that game. I forgot freaking steadfast. Okay, so that's their basic animosity rule. There's their negative, but it's also really cool because basically 1 in 6 of your units a turn probably aren't going to do anything. But the point cost of all your finishers in this army, it's worth it. It's worth it. You play low points. Next, we got Choppas, which I think they refined finally in 8th edition. I don't recall previously like perfectly, but I think this is the first edition where Choppas gave you +1 strength in the first round of combat, where previously it was just +1 strength in the charge.
Yep.
So yeah, Choppas, solid rule. Works with magic weapons, works with everything. You just get +1 strength, first round of combat. Not bad. Defense, if you want to play defense, if you want to play offensive, it's a solid special rule. We got Biggins. So we can talk about that when we get to the actual orcs, but we have models that basically give bigger versions of themselves. We'll explain there. We have a rule called Size Matters and Fear Elves. So goblins, Fear Elves, and orcs don't care about goblins. Size matters.
But other goblins certainly care.
Oh yeah, they do. Okay, so that's it for special rules. Animosity is your big one, but you basically follow the basic rules of Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition. Remember, I think this was the second or the first book that came out in 8th edition, right?
Second, I think. I think
Empire
first
was first. No, Empire was first.
No, Empire was later.
Really? No.
Yeah.
You're telling me Tomb Kings was first in 8th edition?
Tomb Kings, and I think Tomb Kings was first.
I remember it as Empire, Orcs and Goblins. I brought every book home to record all these late reviews, and they're too far away, so I'm not going to go check the dates. But yeah, I'll take your word for it, Al. Okay, let's get into...
Prove me wrong. I'd be happy to be proven wrong.
Let's, well, somebody in the comments will post like the date of all the forest.
That's true, yes. Somebody, there are lots of internet warriors out there, and lots of people that will be happy to correct us.
Yeah, they keep me honest, right? Or they attempt to. we got orc war bosses and big bosses. The first thing we can talk about. So this is the section where we're going to get into the first thing we're talking about is characters. There are in Orcs and Goblins 2 levels of orcs. We're not going to get into the full lore. Actually, we'll talk about it real quick. There is a little bit of lore about black orcs. I'll just do the quick, tiny version of the lore. The Chaos Dwarves created and painted some black orcs. They rebelled. They were slaves to their army and joined the Orcs and Goblins. So we have just a slightly beefier version of an orc board. They have slightly better stats. Your Orc War Boss is Weapon Skill 6, Strength and Toughness 5, Initiative 4, 4 Attacks, Leadership 9, and the Black Orc War Boss will have an extra weapon skill, and that's it? Yeah, stats-wise, just an extra weapon skill. But they come with the all Black Orc characters, whether it be a hero level or orc level, have the Quill Animosity special rule, which if you fail the animosity test, I think you just do you counted you passed it, but you do D6 strength 5 hits on the unit. It's probably a good trade because you don't want your wizard, your shaman, to fail animosity, and you don't want your BSB to be out of the fight. Problem I have with it just seems like such an auto include, and I don't know. I guess the biggest baddest orc always lead the clan, but it's always one black orc amongst all the rest of the army. If you don't have any like black orcs in your army, it doesn't feel right. So I've rarely done it. You always bring a black orc character?
If I yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm trying to talk myself into that corner.
Yeah,
always.
That Quill Animosity special rule, I mean, you need it. You need it for that your main unit, right? Okay, you also have... Oh, sorry.
The only other difference between the Black Orc boss and the Orc Big Boss, Orc War Boss, is that because the Black Orcs get the Arm to the Teeth
right
special, where you have a lot of flexibility in their weapon loadout turn to turn.
You can spend less points on other things. Because, war bosses cannot take heavy armor. See, this is one of those old books where you have to go back and forth for all your rules. You have to go over to the...
They come with heavy armor.
No, Orc War Bosses only light armor. And they cannot take heavy armor. That's another reason why the Black Orc wins out. Now, so you're paying 115 points for a War Boss and 160 points for the Black Orc War Boss. Now that's going to give you heavy armor instead of light armor. You'll have 2 hand weapons and a great weapon. They count arm to teeth. They count as having everything. Shield.
Great weapon, 2 hand weapons.
No, you have to actually purchase the shield separately. Yeah. I think Arm to Teeth previously came with the shield as well, but yeah, so in this edition you have to buy the shield separately, but you come with a great weapon and 2 hand weapons and heavy armor and the ability to buy a shield. Now the Orc War Boss can also purchase a shield, but he only has light armor, and he is 45 points cheaper. Now, I guess most armies wouldn't care because you can buy magic weapons, magic items. The Orc magic item list, when we get to it, it's very lackluster. Is one of the most boring. But yeah, we'll get to that. Oh, okay, yeah. So there's the WA special rule. No, I'm not gonna. Kyle, don't look. Get your eyes up. What does the WA special rule do?
I have no idea.
Same.
I actually turned down to read it.
Now, if I'm gonna go ahead and I think before I go back and check it, it's like once per game, which I've never ever used. You can declare WA at the start of your turn and get +1 combat resolution for your War Boss's unit? I'm going to double check that's true.
It says you get +1 to the combat resolution for the rest of the turn for units of 5 or more Boars, Boys, Orc Savage Orc Boys Black, Orcs Bore Boys, and Savage Orc Bore Boys, including Biggins. And any unit he accompanies gets an additional D3 to combat resolution.
Okay, that's not terrible. D3 for himself. I should use that more. Have you ever WOD?
No, because I've never taken a generic Orc War Boss.
No. Does not all War Bosses, even Black Orcs.
Oh, no, because I've never taken a Black Orc War Boss either. I always take a level 4.
Same.
Always.
Same. Okay, we'll have to discuss why. Actually, we can do that right now because that's next. We got the Orc Shaman. So, Orc Shamans come in 2 flavors: regular and savage.
I was gonna say regular and green for a minute, but then
tattooed or untattooed, basically. So your savage orcs are another class of orcs. They don't wear armor, which you don't care as a wizard. But basically, they come with frenzy and warpaint, and warpaint is a 6-up ward save. Not terrible. And then there's some different magic items that can be equipped by them. Now, having a frenzied shaman isn't that terrible, but your lord, if your shaman's your lord, your leadership 8, may shave a BSB. But I mean, that's 8th edition. You got it to BSB no matter what. You have a toughness 5 wizard. That's your shaman. Now, typically I would go elsewhere and go down the line of the next units, but I think it's a good point to talk about orc magic because we're on the shaman. Now, orcs have 2 spell lores. They have the big wah, little wah. Big for the big things, little for the little things, obviously. So if you're a goblin, you must lose little wah. If you're big, you must lose big. One thing I'm not sure I like is that's all they have access to. Orcs don't have access to the 8 winds of magic. If you're an orc shaman, you use the big wah. Now, once I keep looking at the screen to look at you instead of the camera, but so forgive me, guys. I'm looking at Kyle, not you. But once End Times came out, they got access to death magic, like everybody did. But no, you're limited to your lore in this army, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I don't have to think about what lore I want to use, what things I want to try. Like, this is the lore I got to use. These are the spells I have access.
You would think at a minimum they'd have like the default ability to take lore beast.
Beast? What's wrong with fire?
Or fire?
Yeah. But beast is definitely one I would think, right? Orcs, it just for some reason I would have assumed beast, fire, and shadow. I don't know why shadow, but probably because World of Warcraft. Or, not Warcraft 2. But I was beast and whatever. Either way, you just got the big wall. Let's talk about the big wall. The lore attribute is Power of Doa. The magical powers of orcs and savage orc shamans are boosted by the positive energies of orcs fighting nearby. Conversely, if nearby orcs are running away, their negative energy weakens the shaman. To represent this, if a spell of the big wah has a strength value or grants a strength bonus, the bonus is increased by +1 so long there are more friendly units in combat than are fleeing. Okay, let's keep that in mind as we go over the spells. The signature spell is Gaze of Mork. It's a 7+ to cast. It's a direct damage spell. It goes in a straight line, 4d6 in length. Any model whose base lies under the line takes 1 strength 4 hit. Now you can boost that casting value to 10+ to make that 8d6. That is the terrible, terrible signature spell.
Yeah, it's awful.
Like
it really is. I mean, I don't know how many things you can fit under a 4d6 or 8d6 inch straight line, but it's never going to be more than 5 in a unit.
Right. Like okay. Anytime I call something terrible, I'm immediately thinking about the comments. But the guy is going to say, like, the one time his shaman was in the flank of the 5 Valyrian Reavers and hit all 5 of them and they died in panic. Of course something could happen. It's still a terrible spell. I don't like it. Actually, there's a few spells I just don't like in this book. But there are a couple that are quite very good, actually. Next, we got Brain Bursta. So, the first spell of the 6. It's a 6+ to cast. It's another direct damage spell. It has only a range of 18. You target it. I think it's just another. Yeah. You target any single enemy model. For some reason, I thought you had to target another wizard. You target them with a Strength 5 hit. You can increase the range to 36 inches. Decrease the value to. Now you can target. I think it's Sniper special rule, so I believe that means you can target a champion in the unit.
Yeah, because the champion's a character in 8th edition.
Well, that's true. It's a champion's been a character in every edition except 8th, right?
I mean, it's a character in that it can be.
We've both been playing many editions, or played many editions over the years. Either way, it's a direct damage spell where you can target a single model. It's great for picking off the last wound off an enemy character, or mostly wizards. If you start targeting your opponent's battle center bearer right away and keep putting pressure on them, trying to get it can be quite a useful spell. It's not going to be the first spell I want to pick, but I mean, if you snipe out your opponent's BSB, start weakening their lord or their wizard, you're going to be in a good position. But you're not doing it in a single magic phase is the negative to the spell. If it was
good for taking out great eagles too.
Yeah, but it's only one wound. That's the problem.
I'm just playing with you.
No, but you're not wrong. Like, I think what you touched on a thing is they don't have the magical ability to remove chaff.
No, they do not.
I don't think they need it, but I always would have preferred it. But yeah, you do one wound a turn. If this spell was D3 damage, it would be one of my favorites in this lore. Because you always have that hope of killing that Great Eagle in one turn, or that character in one turn. Like, if it was D3 damage, it would be my go-to spell. The fact that it's only one, at best, you got 2 magic phases before you kill a character. 3 to kill a Great Eagle. Kyle, you can feel free to jump in on anything. I will just keep on talking, because that's kind of what I do. Well, I'm going to go on to the next one. Fist of Gork is 8+ to cast. It's a remains in play. It's an augment spell. It's cast on the shaman himself. It gives him +3 attacks and +3 strength and 6 up ward save. Not terrible, but it's not something you're gonna choose. If you roll it and you got it, and you can make like because you start at strength 3 or 4. Do you remember for a shaman? Probably no. You're strength 4.
Yeah. The nice thing about this really is the fact that it's just remains in play and it forces your opponent to deal with it.
Honestly, I don't know if I care. I don't know if I care about it. If my opponent has that on their shaman, and I'm in combat with their shaman, we're either late game or I'm already where I want to be. No?
Maybe. I mean,
is it ever
the only time that I have used this is like sometimes you find yourself in a position where you literally have no good spells to cast. Right?
Yeah, I find that often with Orcs and Goblins.
Yeah, well, it's a combination of things like their range being short or completely random. You don't always have the spell that you need to deal with whatever, you've got going on. Sometimes it just throw Fist of Gork out.
I'd be too afraid of the miscast.
Well, I didn't say throw 6 dice at it.
How you play Warhammer?
Now, if you throw 3-4 dice at this when you have nothing else better to cast, and your opponent doesn't stop it or chooses not to.
Okay, so let me ask you this: back in the day when you could do some crazy things, you can just pick your spells. You can pick your 4 spells. Is this one of the 4 you're going to pick for your Orc?
No.
Shaman? Agreed. All right, let's move on to the Hand of Gork. One of the best. Maybe the best? Second best? One of the best. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good spell.
It's a 9+ to cast. It's an augment spell. It has the range of 24. Targets a single friendly unengaged unit. If it was engaged as well, it might be broken. So what you do is you remove one model from the front rank. You roll 3d6, and you take that model and you put it anywhere within 3d6 of its position, facing any direction, and then you pick up your unit and reform it around that one model. The hand comes down, picks somebody up, moves them elsewhere, and his buddies all come with him. You can set up a rear charge. You mess with the shenanigans of movement in this game, and you're going to be in a very good position. You can increase that range to 5d6 by changing the casting value to 14+. Totally worth it. This spell it's zany, it's crazy powerful. It's annoying. I love everything about this spell.
Yeah, there's some funny stuff you can do with this. It's I mean, effectively it's exactly like Walk Between Worlds minus the ethereal part. But
well, the walk between, I'm gonna turn all my, those my alarm, that one off. I'm gonna turn all my alarms off. But walk between worlds, like, you actually went through and you walk things. I love the idea of the Gork just coming down, going, "Nope, you go over here now."
yeah, well, I mean, you can hand a Gork a bunch of random things like Mangler Squigs or Pump Wagons. I mean, you can just really mess with people.
It's such a like I love it. Next we got Edbutt. It's a 9 plus the cast. It's a direct damage spell with a range of 4d6, so average 14, short range. This one is you target an enemy wizard in range. It suffers a strength 4 hit, but this one inflicts d3 damage. It's only a wizard though, with no armor saves allowed, and you can cast it on a 12 plus and make it range 8d6. If it was target any character, it would be my favorite. Or say, if it was target anything, it would be my favorite spell.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, but it's it's the psychic Edbutt is what this one is. So you know what? It's not terrible. It's not great, but I like it. And I typically when I roll my dice, I don't trade this one off because your opponent's gonna bring a wizard, and this could one shot your opponent's level 4 right away.
Yeah, especially if the lore attribute is in effect.
Well, yeah,
right? Because then it goes from strength 4 to strength 5.
And I'll tell you this, its greatest value is reminding your opponent that you have it.
Yes.
Because when you hear your opponent can one-shot your wizard with a spell, it's scarier when they have it than when you have it. Like, when I have it, yeah, I might cast it, might be pretty good, I might get it off, but I don't want them to have it. It's a psychological spell. Next we got Here We Go. 11 plus to cast his Augment Spell. It has the range of 2d6 and targets all orc units in range, including the shaman. And you may reroll hit rolls in close combat until the start of the caster's next magic phase. I love this spell.
I use this spell all the time. This would be one of those 4 spells I take every game if I could pick my spells.
Hand of Gork, Here We Go, Foot of Gork, and probably Edbutt.
Yeah. Oh, you wouldn't take Gaze of Mork?
It's so bad. The signature is so bad. I'm like, is he serious? No, he can't be. No, he's not.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing with Here We Go is it's a bubble of reroll hits. I mean, what's not to like about that, right?
And it's only 11 to cast. It's just a solid spell. Like, every army in the game would love that spell. That's how I kind of gauge how good a spell is. Like, it's good for your army is one thing, but like if every army wants it, that's a good spell.
I don't know why I don't know why I said it was a bubble. That was stupid. That's because. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was right. Okay,
yeah, every unit 12. Yeah, I mean it's only 12, but I mean you can get more than. Remember, like you don't have to. Yeah, because it's the units within 12 at the time it's cast. If you end up fleeing and moving around afterwards, you get overrunning and stuff like that. You still have the buff on if you're outside the 12. And the last spell, which is really good, I think every army would want, is Foot of Gork. Here's your 15 plus to cast spell. It's a direct damage spell. It has a 36-inch range, and it's basically one of those templates that scatters, except for it's not a round. It has its own foot template, but it's effectively the I don't have one of those. But
you know where I found this? I've bought a box of random stuff off Facebook Market like 3 years ago, and I never went through it because I just haven't had time. And that little template was in there, and I was so excited. But if you don't have that template, it's in the book.
True. Now, there's also the Fallen Giant template. Which, excuse me, actually, I'll send you one. I have a bunch of them. I bought a bunch of the acrylic ones, like the Games Workshop produced, like the plastic ones that are transparent.
Look at you go.
I bought, somebody had, one of the stores had like 4 or 5 in their stock. I'm like, I'll take all 5 of these. But like the template is almost the volume of a chariot base. It's a pretty big template, and when it scatters d6, it's probably going to hit its target because its base is so big. But again, it could miss completely. But every model underneath the template takes a strength 6 hit with multiple wounds d3. That's just fantastic. It's a scattering template with multiple wounds and high strength. You can kill an entire unit of monstrous creatures.
Ogres love it.
Ogres. Oh, it's a fantastic spell against ogres. You're still going to lose the game against ogres, though. But the best, that's a solid spell just on its own. But the best thing about it is you can upcast it to 18+, which you're going to do 100% of the time. And then so what the lore of this one is, the foot of Gork actually comes down and stomps a unit. But if you cast on 18+, he might just keep stomping. So you have to roll a die after it scatters, or after you hit, and on a 4+, you get to hit another unit. I think it has to be another eligible unit. It's something we kind of discussed. It's not clear, but another eligible unit, so it has to be your direct damage front arc. And you can keep rolling up 4+ and keep stomping and keep stomping and keep stomping.
Yeah. Now, this guy, there's a situation where I think if you roll a misfire,
you roll a 1.
Oh, you roll a 1.
So you stomp a unit and then you roll die on a 4+. You can keep stomping more units or the same unit. You keep pounding them on the ground, but if you roll a 1, Gork stomps one of your units. Your opponent gets to pick one of your units, not in the direct damage front arc, anything on the table, and just stomp it, and takes the hit. So it is the full scatter, right? Yeah, it scatters, but then the spell ends. So I like the drawback because I've seen it win games where it just stomps you into the dust and the game's over. I won, and then I lost a game because he stomped my one unit, caused me a panic. There goes my BSB. Game over. I love the spell. It is
probably the second best spell in that lore.
Are you thinking Hand of Gork is the best? Because I think Foot is the best.
Yeah. You what?
I think Foot's the best.
Do you?
I just love it so much.
Just like the.
I just love it.
I don't know. It's a movement game, right? Being able to mess with the movement phase is always strong.
Yeah, I find that with the orcs, because I played High Elves for so many years. I played a lot of Chaos, a lot of Lizardmen. I'm not as free to move with my orcs as I am with other armies because I can't even deploy that well because I have so many units. You throw too much to the table.
Definitely.
But yeah, you're right. It is a movement game. Okay, so moving on to your this is the point of the review where I now have to jump to a different part of the book.
36.
No, I'm gonna jump over to basically 98 because I'm gonna finish with the rest of the lords. I think that's it for lords. We have no, of course not. We have goblin lords as well. So you can also just take goblins as your characters, which, I mean, if you're going for a theme, not terrible. So if you jump to page 42, we have goblin war bosses and big bosses. So, your goblin big boss, your goblin war boss is your low level character, has weapon skill 5, strength and toughness 4, initiative 4 attacks, and leadership 8. He's going to be dirt cheap, right? Like,
he's 65 points.
Dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. This is the Night Goblin version, which is even cheaper. It's 55 points. Now, when you play Night Goblins over regular Goblins, your difference is going to be the Night Goblins are going to have +1 initiative, but -1 leadership, and that maintains with their characters. The all Fear Elves, the Night Goblins hate Dwarves as well. Night Goblins will be mounted on Cave Squigs, which is the mount they can take, and I think that's the only difference between these characters. But, I mean, at 55 points for Night Goblin War Boss, you don't want to lead your army, but buying him a great weapon, sticking him in a unit of goblins, or 3 of them, is a solid way of getting punched into that goblin unit.
Or 5.
Or 5. Well,
entire front rank of goblin.
So
usually I would do a big boss, not necessarily a war boss, but...
Well, the big boss, you're going to lose 1 weapon skill and I think 1 initiative. Yeah, you're going to have weapon skill 4. Initiative stays the same. Oh, you lose 1 attack. And what are you saving on points? Come over to heroes for a second.
You are saving.
Ooh, 25 points. That's 30 points for Night Goblin Big Boss. I've been bringing in Night Goblin War Bosses. Maybe actually jumping down to the Big Bosses. Big Boss is the hero level. So for 30 points... Good.
150 points, plus whatever the cost of 5 great weapons is, your front line, like your front rank of Night Goblins can actually kill something.
Your front rank gets toughness 4. And your opponent has to divide up all their attacks. Like these two are attacking this one has to attack this one. Like, and then you have all your rank bonus from your regular goblins. Yeah, it's kind of a nasty trick that you kind of sometimes see with ethereal characters for vampire counts, but typically armies can't do this because it's not point sufficient. Goblins are cheap. And we're going to talk about one more character type, which is the Goblin Shaman. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting any other character types. No, other than name characters. Yeah, because the Goblin Shaman has access to the lore of the Little Law. Now, there is one thing we need to talk about before we talk about that is the Night Goblins they got a little bit of a boon, which in my opinion makes the regular Goblin Shaman non-existent. You're never going to use it because the Night Goblin Shaman has magic mushrooms. They like to get high.
Yep.
Each time they attempt to cast a spell, after the casting dice has been rolled, a Night Goblin Shaman must eat a magic mushroom. This adds 1d6 to the casting result. The dice does not count as a power die and cannot contribute to irresistible force. However, if you roll a 1, you must roll a further d6. On a 4+, nothing happens. If you roll a 1, 2, or 3, it was poisonous, and the shaman takes 1 wound with no armor saves allowed. And then, unless the spell is cast as irresistible force, the spell will automatically fail. So, I think it's clear, but I'll say it again. So, you cast a spell, and then you add a further d6, the power level of the spell. If you had rolled a 1, the spell's on that extra die, the spell's going to fail. And then you got to roll a d6 more, and then on a 4+, you're fine. On 1 to 3, you take a wound. What? I'll take that drawback every time. Every time. Adding a d6 to every spell you get, in 1 in 6 times, the spell will just automatically fail is not terrible. Like, you're getting way more out of that. Way more out of that. So that's arguably... this. I don't like to use the word broken, but that's a little too good.
It's real strong. I mean, the only drawback is that depending on how you set up your army, like these guys, I think can ride.
I don't think they're. The Ragnaroks, yes.
Right.
No, they can't. No, Night Goblins do not ride. Do not ride Ragnaroks. Those are only Force Goblin Shamans. Or is the regular Goblin Shamans Night Goblin?
Okay, yeah. So they can't have any mounts.
They're gonna be on foot, but I mean, there's a list you can do where you do. Where is the Goblin Great Shaman? Well, the Goblin Great Shaman is the one that rides the Ragnarok.
What I was gonna say is sometimes if you're gonna take a Night Goblin Great Shaman, he may find yourself in situations where he's your general.
Yep.
And he's leadership 6.
Yep.
That's the biggest drawback. But he's also, even with that bonus to cast, he's still 5 points cheaper than a regular Goblin Shaman.
Well, upgrade to level 4, he's 175 points.
Yeah, well, if you upgrade a Goblin Great Shaman to level 4, he is
180.
80.
Yeah.
Yeah. So level 3, level 4, he's 5 points cheaper. He's just definitively a better caster.
At that level, you can afford another Lord. I mean, if you're really strapped for points, you just take a regular Goblin War Boss for leadership 8.
Yeah. You could. That's why I said in some situations you may.
Yeah. No, but I think 100% of the time I've played pure Goblin lists. Level 4 Night Goblin Shaman was my leader, and and guess what? My army ran off the table.
No.
No way. But yeah, there is a good list where you put a great shaman on a Ragnarok and you bring a bunch of like Goblin Shamans. You channel it crazy. But we'll get into that and do a lot of magical stuff. So we're gonna talk about the lore of the Little Wa. The attribute is one of my favorite in the game. It's not super powerful, but it gets in your opponent's head. It is called Sneaky Stealing. So basically, every time they cast a spell, after the spell has been resolved, you roll a die on a 5+. You just take one of your opponent's spell dice and add it to your.
Yeah, it's a great lore attribute. It's perfect.
It is so good at just messing. Like your opponent's sitting there thinking, no, I'm gonna let this one go. No, I'm gonna let this one go. Wait a minute, Colin. If it goes off, I might steal one of your dice in a 5+. Like, all right, I'll try to spell it. Like it's one of those get your opponent's head type lore attributes. Okay, so Sneaky Stabbing is the signature spell. It is an augment spell with a range of 12. The target's close combat attacks have armor piercing special rule. And then in addition, the unit can reroll failed to hit rolls and to wound rolls when attacking a unit in close combat in the enemy's flank or rear. You're probably not going to get the second bonus off often. Armor piercing on a 6+ to cast for a signature spell isn't terrible. I mean, you got the Choppas rules on orcs. It's usually better cast on a unit of orcs. You absolutely can cast it on orcs. But when I play goblins, I play pure goblin theme, and I'm not doing my damage in close combat, even though eventually you kind of have to get there. But it's an okay signature spell, but not designing my army.
Yeah. So, in my mind, this spell is a spell that you're going to get off all the time because your opponent is not going to waste the time or the power dice to dispel it. But it gives you the opportunity to steal one of theirs.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, right? Like you're casting Sneaky Stabbing is you're casting it for the lore attribute. Your opponent's like, whatever, I'm not gonna even. Yeah, you covered. You nailed it. You nailed it. That's you did on right. Now, if you had an Orc Shaman, Big Shaman, and a Goblin Shaman, and you hand a Gork a unit of whatever behind somebody, and then you cast Sneaky Stabbing on them, that's crazy powerful. Like if you get into somebody's flank and rear, you're rerolling to hit and to wound. Like even like a Goblin Strength 3, like even your worst fighter that's gonna do fantastic. It's gonna do very well with a big Squig herd. Black Orcs, everybody's gonna like the second bonus if you get in somebody's flank. That's why I like the spell. Like it's typically down here, but like in certain situations it can be way up there, and it's only 6 to cast. Next, we got Vindictive Glare at a 5+. It's a magic missile with a range of 24. It causes 2d6 strength 3 hits. You can boost the spell to 3d6 strength 3 hits on a casting value of 10. So there's your anti-chaff spell, but it's only cast by goblins.
You see, what I love about this is the casting cost.
It's 5 to cast. Dirt cheap. It's another one where it's like, I threw 2 dice at it. I got it off. It's going to do some damage, and I'm going to steal a die. I like that. Like their average spellcasting is typically low for the goblins. You can throw if you've got a high Winds of Magic, you can throw a couple dice at every spell, and just multiple attempts at drawing out your opponent's dice and maybe sneakily stealing them.
Especially if you have a Night Goblin Shaman.
D6 every time. It's
like
too good.
Makes your dice go so far.
Now, you wouldn't think it's Orcs and Goblins being the magic army, but, I mean, in 8th edition, you absolutely can if you want. And you have points for everything else, because you're the artillery army, the close combat army, the chaff army, and you're the magic army all at once. Next, we got Gift of the Spider God. Here's the casting value 8. It's an augment spell with a range of 12. A unit gains poison attack special rule until the next magic phase. If you already have poison attack, it's boosted to a 5+ instead of a 6 to hit. Not terrible, not great.
Yeah, it's probably not one of the 6. One of the 4 I'm picking.
Exactly. But I mean, if you were to bring a huge horde of bows, 1, why did you do that? And 2, if you did, this isn't terrible.
Yeah, I'm just looking through. I wanted to see who has poisoned attacks besides an Ragnarok.
The Spider Rider mounts. That's it.
Spider Rider mounts. Okay.
I typically don't want them in close combat, but
no,
sometimes they got it, right? Okay, next we got Itchy Nuisance for 8+. I already can see the comment. Steve, let Kyle talk more. I apologize, guys. I like to talk. Itchy Nuisance in 8+ to cast. It's a hex spell with a range of 24. Roll a d6, and the target unit immediately reduces its movement and initiative to a minimum of 1 by the d6. Until the start of the next match. It's so good. Troops with a random movement reduce the number of dice they roll by d3 to a minimum of 1d6, and their initiative by d6. Control your opponent's movement, control the game, win the game. I'm picking this spell as one of my 4. Every time. I love this spell. There's not much more to say about that. Yep. Initiative and movement by d6 is huge. It's game-winningly huge sometimes.
It kind of fixes a lot of the problems that like if you have a mixed army of orcs and goblins, it fixes a lot of the issues in combat that orcs have because they have such low leadership or low initiative,
yep.
Right? So, it's like it's almost like Milkoths in a lot of ways.
You know, okay, I agree. You're not wrong, but I think the way I look at it the most, and the way I use it, is effectively your opponent's going to charge d6 instead of 2d6.
Yes.
It's going to make them not charge you. I mean, okay, so you're kind of a lot like me where we play the same people over and over again. So you really get to know the styles of your opponent's play, and you really start to... The games just get better after you play 400 games with the same person. You know the dance you're constantly doing, and you're always trying to get in just outside of your average charge range or whatever. This just throws that entirely off. Once you cast this spell in a unit, you can all but guarantee your opponent is not going to declare the charge. In my experience,
no, unless I think that's spot on.
Yeah, unless they're like, okay, I have to give it a go. I got to give it a try, and it's usually to put them in a bad position. I love this spell. Next, we got Gorkle Fix It, casting value 8+. It's a hex spell with a range of 24. The unit must reroll hits and 2 wounds and armor saves of 6 in shooting and close combat to the caster's next magic phase. I'm not going to pick this as one of my 4, but I will keep it if I roll it. It's not terrible.
No, I think you're right about that. It's that spell from Lore of Heavens.
I actually just played a game and I was using that spell. Wins? I actually just had. I just played.
It doesn't matter. It's almost identical to that spell, right?
Curse of the Midnight Wind.
There you go.
But yeah, it's. I think it's exactly that. Except for this is shooting and close combat. I believe that is as well, actually. Yeah, I mean,
anywhere you'd use Curse of the Midnight Wind, that all applies to this spell.
Exactly. You nailed it. All right,
except you might get more magic dice.
That's true, and I mean, it's going to be cast by a Night Goblin Shaman, and you're going to get a free die casting it.
Yeah,
so I think Curse of the Midnight Wind is like a 6 to cast. And this is the same value for. Okay, so next we got Night Shroud. It's another augment spell. It targets the shaman and any unit he's with. It counts as being in soft cover until the beginning of the caster's next magic phase. Any enemy model that charges the base combat with a shaman or his unit while the spell is in effect must take a dangerous terrain test. The shaman can choose to have the Night Shroud affect all friendly units within 12 on a casting value of 15 instead of 9. I don't care. That about sum it up?
It's not a great level 5 spell.
I don't think anytime I've ever rolled it and kept it, I've never cast it.
Yeah, all right. So here's the situation I could see it being okay is like if you have a unit of goblins which generally are really bad at killing stuff. Maybe this gives them a way to at least deal damage to whatever they're fighting. Okay, it's a stretch, right?
Here's the problem with the statement. A goblin is just as killy as an elven spearman. He's probably hitting his target on 4s. The elven spearman's probably hitting his target on 3s.
And the spearman's going to have a reroll.
Sure, but I mean, okay.
And he's going to fight in 5 ranks instead of 4.
Right. Now you're paying like 5 times the points per model, though. but you're wounding on the same.
Yeah.
A strength 3 attack with Horde in 8th edition. You can't discount the goblin fighting. Enough dice will kill anything in this game.
That's true. That's true.
But I'm still not casting the spell. And then finally, we got Curse of the Bad Moon. It is a 15 plus to cast. It's a magical vortex, so it remains in play, obviously. This might be my favorite spell in the entire game. It's not the best, most powerful one, but it's the best. It's the best.
You like it because it's random? Is that why you like it?
I love it because it's random. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't choose Lore of Shadows because you have that initiative and it's the perfect spell against you. I chose this one, which sometimes so basically it's a magical vortex which can upcast to 25 to cast to go to the big one, and it moves like a vortex. Now every model hit by the template must take a characteristic test or suffer. Is it 1 wound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one I think they just take a wound.
Yeah, take 1 wound with normal saves allowed, but you have to roll a d6 to see what characteristic test they're going to take. On a 1 or 2 is a strength test, 3, 4 is a toughness test, 5, 6 initiative test.
It has the potential to be good against every army.
That's exactly what it is. So if I take a Lore of Shadow and I want to do the Pit of Shades or whatever, and I'm playing against an Elven army, I'm like, it's not going to do jack. This one has a decent chance of harming it. I would rather have a 66% chance of harming any army than harming most armies, and then some armies do nothing. Basically nothing, because 6 always do, all right? But or pass.
Fails.
Yeah, wrong game. Yeah, I love the randomness of it. I don't often cast it at 25. I'll cast it at 15 because it's just low enough that you're almost guaranteed to get it. But I mean, throwing 6 dice at the 25 plus to cast for a big template. I've actually, spoilers, I've lost a game because of this. I cast it at 25 to cast. It went forward 6 inches. That's it. And then, because it's Magic Vortex, it moves in your opponent's magic phase, it moved directly back 6 inches, which meant it was within an inch of me, which means it has to pop through me, which means it took the damage. Oh, that was my wizard, obviously, because it came right back on him, who was my leader, my general, who had bad leadership. The army ran off the table, I lost the game. Best spell in the game.
Comes with playing goblins.
Okay, the last thing we're talking about characters is the mounted Goblin Great Shaman on an Arachnarok, because it can be upgraded to have a Catch Web Spider Shrine. So Arachnarok is a pretty solid monster. Actually, this is the first monster. I think it's the first monster that came out where I think Games Workshop was trying to say, yeah, cannons might be a problem. So we have a movement 7 monster that is strength 5, toughness 6, but 8 wounds. I think, and guys, don't take this as gospel here. I think this is the first monster that came out that couldn't be one-shotted by cannon. That sound familiar? Does that sound right?
Star Dragon?
That came out. That didn't come out yet.
Wasn't that in 7th though?
Ooh, was Star Dragon in 7th? I don't have. Does Star Dragon have?
What else?
Star Dragon had 7. No. Yeah, 7 wounds. I don't remember if there was a Star Dragon in 7th edition or not.
Point being is there aren't a lot of.
No, Star Dragon had 6 wounds. 6 wounds. That's 7. Star Dragon had 6 wounds.
Point being, there aren't a lot of monsters in 8th edition that have the ability to survive a cannonball that does 6 wounds.
Thank you for keeping me on track. So, this monster has a 4 armor save. It has a Venom Surge special rule. One of the attacks could be his mandible. And it's poisoned with d6 damage. Other than that, it has 8 attacks at strength 5. Not a bad monster. But when a shaman is riding it, you get that Catch Web Spider Shrine. A Goblin Great Shaman mounted on an Arachnarok Spider with a Catch Web Spider Shrine has the Lore Master Little Wah. So you just know everything.
So good.
That alone is worth it. In addition, he and every friendly wizard within 12 adds +2 to their channeling attempt. Okay. Think about that for a moment. Sneaky stealing steals dice. You have night goblins who are going to add additional die every time you cast a spell. You're going to bring multiple wizards. You're going to have one of them with all 7 spells, and then the remaining 6 spells are going to divide up against 2 or 3 other shamans, and you're just going to keep throwing dice at spells, and you're channeling on a 4+ for all these characters.
Especially when your shamans are 50 points apiece for level 1s.
Yeah, and I don't think I would upgrade to level 2. It's probably not. You're probably better off buying another level 1.
I would.
Yeah. It's yeah. I've never we did a bat rep with this once many years ago at Mini Wargaming. I haven't done it since. Mostly actually because I haven't purchased the Ragnarok. I feel like I haven't fleshed out my Orcs and Goblins fully yet. It's my second biggest fantasy game. My houses are still huge. But like there's so many things I still don't own for Orcs and Goblins, this being one of them. But I'll eventually do this again. Mostly I want to paint the Ragnarok, but it's a cool thing that's very frustrating and arguably one of the more powerful things in this book.
Yep. Pretty much.
Okay.
Do you ever take the stone thrower upgrade?
You know what? The answer is no. And I have to actually go back and read that. So if you take the Ragnarok as a rare choice, you can upgrade it with a web flinger. And I actually can't remember what it does.
So if whatever it hits now has the always strikes last special rule.
Right, that's not terrible. Because it's strength 1? Does it do no damage or strength 1?
It's strength 1, 3 under the hole.
Yeah. Handing out always strikes last is the only reason you would do that. You can't target a thing that's in combat, and you have to declare charges before you shoot.
Yeah.
I think they done fucked up with this.
Yeah.
How long does it last till next turn? It could be defensive.
Yeah, I guess.
At the end of the it's you're gonna use it defensively only. Please don't charge me. I make you always strike last.
Shoot it at something and pray to Mork and Gork that it scatters into combat you care about.
You know what? It is multiple wounds D3, so wow. Yeah.
It sounds good, but in practice, I don't think.
Here's the God's honest truth. I'm gonna check its points, depending on how much the upgrade cost. Because if it's a 5-point upgrade, I'm gonna buy it every time. It's not gonna be a 5-point upgrade though. Ragnarok Spider. It's 30 points for that. I'm not gonna spend 30 points on that.
Nah.
Yeah.
I'll buy another Goblin Big Boss.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and obviously the monster. Oh, this monster has Swift Stride, and it ignores terrain because it's all crawly and stuff.
Yeah, it's also stubborn, which is cool for
true. This is only leadership 6 for the Force Goblin. Yeah. Okay, let's. I think we're on to troop choice core units. We have quite a bit of options for core, more than I think maybe the most in the game, but more than your average army for sure. We got Orc Boys, which are 6 points a model. They are a human stat line with toughness 4 and initiative 2 instead of 3s, and that's it. They're same leadership. Okay, the sergeants of the units are called bosses, and they have higher strength and weapon skill over the regular squad, something that's not typical in this game. Now, this was a thing you would see many, many, many years ago when I was a kid, where sergeants and squads were character upgrades you purchase separately, and they could have better stats. But their bosses are slightly better. I would means you gotta roll their attacks separately more often than not, but your Orc Boss is strength 5 the first round of combat. Not terrible. They have animosity and Choppas, obviously. Size matters. They come with light armor. And then you can upgrade to have spears, additional hand weapons, and shields. And you can upgrade a unit to Biggins for plus 2 points per model. Now, if you're a Biggin upgrade, you basically get the stat of your boss. So everybody's weapon skill 4, everybody's strength 4. Now, you can't have more Biggins in your army than you have. Like you can't have a whole tribe of Biggins. Now there was a thing in White Dwarf back in the day. There was the what's it called? Somebody in the comments will type it out for me. There was a where you had a Goblins army, but it also became the name of that tribe or that way of playing, like a Goblins army, turned into like a what they called a certain tournament. You know what I'm saying?
You know Ard Boys?
Ard Boy? No, not Ard Boys. Maybe it was Ard Boys because that was the event, right? The Ard Boys event.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's the same thing you're talking about. I've not heard of that.
So there was a White Dwarf way of playing Orcs and Goblins where you could have I think everything had to be Biggins. I think it was called the Ard Boys. Somebody in the comments will. It doesn't matter for this review. And then if they are Biggins, they can have a magic standard worth up to 50 points. Unfortunately, there aren't many magic standards worth buying. Biggins are definitely worth 2 points per model. Well,
yes.
You can't have that many.
Especially because they still come out of your core slot.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't you?
Okay, this is one of the... Okay, so a lot of armies in Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition want to spend the minimal amount of points in core. With Orcs and Goblins, you don't have to do that.
No, you don't.
You can use the majority of your army in core and do just fine.
There's a lot of good stuff in your core options.
Next, we got Orc Boys. They are 7 points a model. They're the same as boys, except for they come with a bow. Now, I kind of like them. I don't know how you feel about them. A 10-man Arr Boy unit is to plink off some shots, clear out some chaff, but more importantly, they're good at flanking.
They're still orcs.
They're still orcs. They're still toughness 4. With the Choppas special.
At strength 4 first round of combat.
Yeah. Choppas and toughness 4. It's very worth 7 points for Arr Boys. They're often the thing I use to fill the last 2 points I want for my core. Next we got
Is it weird to you seeing orcs that have weapons skill and have ballistic skill 3?
No.
And a boss that has 4?
So orcs have always had weapons, the same stats as a human. I'm not even sure what edition of 40k they dropped weapon skill or ballistic skill, hitting off eyes, whatever you call it, skill 2 at the time. I think it was relatively recent in the grand scheme of things in the timeline. But yeah, no, it's they always were just beefier, slower humans. Savage Orcs are a thing I don't currently own. Do you play some mini Savage Orcs?
Oh yeah, I love Savage Orcs. I could wax poetic about these boys forever.
Okay, all right. So I'll give them the rundown. I'm sorry, I'm gonna itch you back, and you can tell me why you prefer them. So again, troop choices, 4 choices. They are 1 point more expensive than Orc Boys. You're gonna gain Frenzy and War Paint. War Paint is a 6-up invulnerable save or ward save. And then you can upgrade them to Savage Orc Biggins, the same 2 points. And I think they come with... No, you have to buy additional hand weapons, which I think... Yeah, same 1 point upgrade. Okay, go. Why do you love them so much?
1. The ability to take additional hand weapons and Frenzy gives them 3 attacks each. You make them Biggins. Now they're Strength 4, Strength 5 the first round of combat. They come with a built-in ward save, and you can couple it with a Savage Orc Great Shaman with the Lucky Shrunken Head to give the whole unit a 5-up save. And then, if you put the Iron Curse icon in there somewhere, they have a 4-up ward save against War Machines, because the ward saves stack, right?
Is that a thing?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
No, I never considered that. I gotta go check the War Paint special rule.
I literally just talked myself into that while I was waxing poetic. So if it's not able to stack with other magic items, it's gonna make me sad. And
I gotta go buy. I was intentionally putting why can't I find? I was intentionally putting Savage Orcs low on my list because I know I want a bunch of them, but I want to wait and get everything else done.
It says Savage Orcs adorn themselves with tattoos, charms, or war paint, such as the Orc's faith, that they gain a 6+ ward save. Says nothing about not being able to stack with other ward saves.
Ward saves don't stack in the rulebook. The Shrunken Head is the only thing that I can think of in the game that's... Oh, no, the High Elf Lord. So ward saves don't stack as per rulebook.
was
But
the other one.
there's each one. But the Shrunken Head when we get to magic items does.
All right, well then ignore the thing about the Iron Curse icon.
But I would swap out the Iron Curse icon for one of the magic resistance items. So the new spells aren't going to tear you down because you have you're toughness 4, but you have no armor. But yeah, it's the best. It's the best. It's a fighting army, right? It's the best core unit in the game. In this army, not the game. In this army.
Yes.
And it's a contender for one of the best in the game, to be very honest with you.
Just don't lose combat.
I mean, upgraded. Well, hey, upgraded to Biggins. You're 10 points a model. That's not expensive. That's still cheaper than a high elf spearman. All right, so and they can also have bows, which is not a bad upgrade to have on them because you can have. I used to play 40 Savage Orcs and then 30 Savage Orcs with bows. They would plink up along with them and then do a flank charge or whatever.
Yeah, well, they may have bows, but they're still Savage Orcs.
Next we got exactly. Next we got goblins. I don't personally own any, and if anybody has any for sale, unpainted, still in a box, I would love to purchase them. They are. I think you always want to choose night goblins over goblins, but the completionist in me would like a squad of regular goblins. There's nothing to talk about these goblins. They are 3 points a model. They are human stats with weapon skill 2, initiative 2, and leadership 6. That's it. You can take spears or short bows. There's nothing to talk about here. Because we'll jump over to night goblins, which are same points, have initiative 3 instead of 2, and leadership 5.
The only thing that goblins get that night goblins don't is the ability to take nasty skulkers.
You know what? I can't even. They're like assassins, right?
Yeah. With killing blow.
I'm gonna go check what nasty skulkers do.
I
just remember being so bad that I don't even care about these things.
Weapon skill 2, strength and toughness 3, 2 attacks, initiative 2, 6 leadership. Deployed exactly like assassins.
Yeah.
And then the first turn that they reveal themselves, they have killing blow. That's it.
Those skulkers are 10 points each. I just don't see it. I don't. The models look nice though. Now you want to compare that to the night goblins, who have higher initiative but lower leadership. Same points, basically same upgrades. They come with shields instead of light armor. But they come with the ability to purchase fanatics instead of the skulkers. Fanatics are 25 points a model. Fanatics are amazing. So fanatics are these ball and chain, whippy, crazy, hyped up pie little goblins that are going to shoot at a unit. So anytime the unit comes with an 8 of the enemy, or the enemy comes with an 8 of them, all fanatics in a unit must be released. You just aim them and you move them 2d6? 3d6 when they get released? Forget.
6.
2d6? And every unit hit by them takes d6 strength 5 hits. And they bounce around. Every turn they're going to randomly move around. If they roll doubles, they just kill themselves. They hit impassable terrain. They hit other fanatics. They kill themselves. But they it's a good tactic to just have a bunch of them, clog up the midfield with them, and your opponent has to figure out how to get through them or not. Or even hand of gorking a unit, dropping them with an 8 of the enemy, and send off the fanatics in the opponent's lines. They're good at killing chaff. They're good at doing everything. They can kill monstrous infantry. Fanatics they're fantastic. 25 points a model. Just know when you see, if you're going up to play against a Night Goblin unit, there are 3 fanatics in that unit, 100%. Right? So yeah, fanatics are Night Goblins win out against regular goblins every time. We also have Goblin Wolf Riders. These are...
One more thing about Night Goblins is they get netters.
Oh! Yes, we can. Yes.
Big deal.
Yeah, so if you want a big combat unit of goblins, spears or hand weapons, there's viability for both. One for the parry save, one for the extra rank of attacks. I think with goblins, I'd rather have the attacks, because you're going to die anyway. They can do well in combat. Strength and toughness 3. Bad weapon skill, but a lot of attacks. But netters. for like it's a 35 point upgrade, the 45-point upgrade. The netters can the upgrade the unit is throw nets on the enemy, and I want to say it's a 2+. I have to go back and check this rule.
No,
it is. The enemy unit is a -1 strength. You roll a 1, you hit yourself, and you're -1. You net your own unit. It takes these because remember 3 points a model. It turns the Night Goblin unit into a too efficient for their points combat unit. You can make a big horde for dirt cheap, point wise. That's going to have fanatics that are going to clear out a lot of wounds beforehand and can do very well in combat. Now, you are leadership 5. You need to have your general and your BSB in your rank. But points wise, you can't complain, right? Like I would you could increase these guys by a point per model easily, maybe even 2 with all those upgrades. I'll pay it every time. Okay, so we have a couple of fast cavalry options. We have the Goblin Wolf Riders and the Goblin Spider Riders. The Wolf Riders are just regular goblins, leadership 6 on the back of wolves. Wolves have movement 9. Other than that, they are the stat of a horse. And then we have the Goblin Forest Riders, which are the Spider Mount is only movement 7, but it can crawl over terrain. Its mount bite attack is itself poisoned. And that's it. Okay, so these aren't terrible fast cavalry or huge. I often use Goblin Wolf Riders. The biggest downside to both these units is nothing about them themselves. They are both solid. Problem is, you can take a Goblin hero on a wolf for like no points, which will do the job of this unit.
Better.
It'll be tougher and more mobile, easier to control because you don't have to worry about animosity. It's unfortunate for these two units because I think they're both fine. They're both good, and I often do bring Wolf Riders as a squad just because I love the way they look. But that's their only downside, I think. Is that all the core? Did we nail all the core?
I feel like we did. I don't think we missed anything.
So, core. Solid. A lot of options. A lot of playstyles, even within the core. I'm not going to complain about that. This is one of my favorite armies. Okay, so special, we have, again, quite a few things. We have 3 pages of special. The first thing you're going to get is the Black Orc. It is a weapon skill 4, strength and toughness 4, leadership 8, infantry squad. They are armed with teeth, so they have heavy armor, additional hand weapons, and great weapons, and you can purchase shields for the squad at 1 point per model. And they can have a magic standard worth up to 50 points. They are immune to psychology, and they have Choppas. At 12 points a model, I think they're a little on the expensive side.
Yes, I would say so. Especially because when I take them, I always take the shields to make sure that they get to combat in one piece.
Well, my issue with them, and I think you might agree, we'll see, but what job do they do that Savage Orcs can't do?
They don't.
For cheaper.
And they come out of special as opposed to core.
Exactly.
And they don't have a ward save. And they don't have 3 attacks.
Yeah. They look awesome. I don't own any. I will buy some. But they're kind of a miss in this book. But they're not terrible for what they do. They're just... Your points are just better spent elsewhere.
I think what you're paying for is access to great weapons when you want them, because they're the only infantry in this book that has any potential for strength 6.
Well, strength 7 in the first turn, right?
7 in the first round.
You're not wrong.
So you do get that.
Okay, but how often? Strength 7 is good, right? But how about 3 attacks with strength 5 from the Savage? Like, yeah. But
how often does that scenario come into play?
Well, the thing about So, for those of you who haven't really played a lot of fantasy and think about things as Games Workshop's current state of things, like you can talk about things. Do I want like 10 strength 7 attacks or 30 strength 5 attacks? Well, there are times in current games where that's 10 strength 7 attacks are just going to do better for you. There is in the 8th edition rule set, the 30 strength 5 attacks will outpace the 10 strength 7 attacks 100% of the time. There's like toughness. Monsters are toughness 5. The super tough ones are toughness 6. A steam tank used to be toughness 10, it's down to toughness 6. Like, super high toughness doesn't exist in this game.
A War Sphinx is toughness 8.
Exactly. So you're going to wound the War Sphinx on 6s with the Savages or the 5s with the Black Orcs. But here's the thing. You won that combat if nobody did any damage anyway. Right? Like, resolution, crumble, like, you don't kill a War Sphinx with damage.
The only situation where 10 strength 7 attacks might be better than 30 strength 5 is like if you're fighting Cavalry with a 1-up armor save. Like, you might get more done. But that is not that common. There's like three...
Would you rather weight of dice, or would you rather... I think I'd still rather the strength 5 attacks. 3-up save as opposed to 5-up save? Maybe not. I
don't know. That's the only situation where I could see an argument.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know that I would still not rather have more attacks.
Here's the case I want to make for Black Orcs. They're pretty.
They are pretty.
All right, next we got Orc Bore Boys. So basically we have Orc stats on a boar, and you can upgrade them to be biggins. Boars are horses with movement 7 and thick skin, so basically they're barded. So you get +2 to your save, and only have that 7-inch move. They also have tusks, so they're +2 strength on the boar itself is +2 strength on the charge, which is nice. And then I feel like there's one more thing to point out about boars. Is that it? They just don't work. They don't have a place in 8th edition. Is the shit of it. They don't have a place in 8th edition. And then you can do Savage Orc Boar Boys, which same thing. Savage Orcs on boars. They have a special rule where they can use 2 hand weapons even while mounted, because they have really, really cool sculpts. I love the Boar Boy sculpts. The last round before they got discontinued.
They're really good.
And then we're on to War Machine type things. We have the Orc Bore Chariot. It is a strength and toughness 5 chariot with 4 wounds and a 4-up armor save for 85 points. And
the best chariot in the game.
Maybe second best.
One of the best chariots in the game.
Because I'll argue that the Goblin Wolf Chariot is the best chariot in the game. Either way,
probably
the Orc Chariots, whether it's Orc or Goblin, freaking fantastic. 85 points, toughness 5, 4 wound chariot with a 4-up save, and the boars themselves, strength 5 on the charge. You can't complain. Choppas and spears, chariots with strength 5 on the charge. It's a solid unit. It's a solid unit. And then the Goblin version is drawn by wolves for the 9-inch move. They only have a 5-up save. They're still strength 5 and toughness 4, but they're 50 points, 50 points. That's too cheap. That is too cheap for a strength 5 chariot. Oh, and both of them are scythed. Their chariots are solid. I think I would bring 3 Goblin Wolf chariots anytime I'm playing competitive or above. If I'm playing tournament, I'm bringing 3 Wolf chariots for sure.
Probably.
And then the last thing in special is the Goblin Spear Chukka. It is a 35-point war machine. It's just a bolt thrower, but if it rolls a 1 to hit, you have to roll on the stone thrower misfire chart. That's it. Worth it every time. You can take you can take up to 6 in an army and 12 in a grand army. I only own 4. I don't think I would bring more than 4, because you have a pitiful leadership of 6 unless you upgrade to a 5-point bully, put an orc in there. You got to keep them like 6 inches apart from each other, so that if one dies, you don't start panicking every other war machine in your army. But you don't want to be deploying behind your own units, and you're playing orcs and goblins, and you have a lot of things. War machine. Like, this is one of the war machines where you're not always going to fire without penalties, because you're going to be firing through your own unit. But I still bring them because that 6 to hit that you get sometimes can just turn the tides of the game.
Yeah. So once you start talking about the Goblin war machines is really when you start talking about probably the largest strength of the army in like the competitive or tournament setting.
100%.
And spear chuckers are just the beginning.
Just the beginning, exactly. You don't need them, but if you're gonna play Orcs and Goblins, buy them. Oh man, sorry, yeah, one more page of special still. We have Night Goblin Squig Hoppers. Okay, these things are just Night Goblins riding squigs that hop around. They have a random move of 3d6. They count as cavalry and they're 12 points a model. They cannot be joined by characters. They are skirmishers, and extra boinky, I think they move as if they fly. A Squig has 2 attacks at strength 5. Other than that, this is a toughness 3 cavalry model with no save. Not worth 12 points. It's going in previous editions it would have been better, but like every army's going to kill this before it does anything, and they're too expensive wint-wise to justify in any way, shape, or form. But you can take a Squig herd, which is 8 points of cave Squig, and then you have to have herders in there at 3 points a model. There's a ratio. I think it's 1 goblin for every 3 squigs. So you do a horde of 30 squigs and 10 herders. But these squigs are strength 5 with 2 attacks apiece. Not terrible in a horde. Little on the expensive side, but you're gonna get shot to death.
Rightly so. Because if these guys make it to combat, you're in trouble.
They're going to tear through. The problem with them is, the footprint's going to be a little bit smaller, but you're about the same points as your savage orcs. A horde is going to have a smaller footprint, and it's going to be slightly cheaper because a fourth of them are going to be 3 points instead of 8. But you're not getting that toughness 4. You're not getting that ward save. So whatever they do, Savage Orcs do better, but they look cool. And they have Squigs going wild. I believe if they die, they do damage. Like if the squad, I have to double check.
That's if all of the herders die.
Right. Okay.
The Squig just like disperse, and everything in a 2d6 bubble takes d6 strength 5 hits.
I do plan on purchasing some of these because when I do with, I'll get them done eventually. When I do a themed Night Goblin army, that's a solid combat unit that it does damage.
The new Squigs, by the way, do fit on 20mm squares.
All of them. I feel like one of them, the one with the legs out, might not fit.
I've done it. I'll show you.
Nice.
And the little goblins holding mushrooms on sticks and shit in the background as the herders look aces. By the way,
I bet. Well, there's a couple of things so Snotlings next thing, 30-point base. They're garbage. I'm not going to talk about them. Swarms don't work anymore in 8th edition. But then we got trolls because the new trolls that you can buy, they fit perfectly on a 40mm square. And they're beautiful. The old trolls were ugly. So the new Squigs, new trolls, you can do Night Goblin Army up right now. No problem if you want to do Orcs and Goblins. But trolls, 35 points a model. It's a monstrous infantry with movement 6, strength 5, toughness 4, 3 wounds apiece, 3 attacks, leadership 4. They have regeneration because here they have stupidity and troll vomit. Troll vomit is they can do one. I think it's strength 5, no armor save, allowed attacks. Not terrible, but 35 points for these guys. The leadership 4. Their stupidity leadership 4. If they didn't have that, they would be too good. You have to keep your general nearby to offset their stupidity, but it is a solid monstrous infantry horde.
Yes.
Too good, and I will eventually get some painted up. I think what's the perfect size? I'm thinking you only want 8 if you don't want to go horde.
You don't want to go horde. What? Go 4x4?
Yeah. Because
if you're 4x4, so you're.
I feel like 3x3 is just not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough attacks. And then
if you go 4x4, then at least you are maximizing on a horde of 20mm squares.
The problem I have with a 5x5, for example, is, well, at that point, why am I not 6x6? If I'm not 6x6, why am I not 6x2? If I'm not 6x2, I should be 6x3, right? So it's a tipping point where 8, any more than 8, you're jumping up to a horde of 18. I don't know if that's the way my stupid brain works, but 6 in a squad, 3x2 isn't enough. 4x2 I feel is the right amount. And any more than that, then I want a horde. I'm trying to figure out how many to buy.
Well, you should buy a horde, paint them all, and then have the ability to use whatever you want.
This is the frustrating part. You're right, because I have to do that because the number that I think is the sweet spot is the 4x2. Not 4x5. I've been saying 4x5. I meant 4x2. They get sold in packs of 3, so that doesn't make sense. So do I want 3x3? Well, they don't fight like that. So if I'm buying 3x3, I'm going to do 6x3. Stupid Games Workshop.
The real choice you'll have to make is whether you want to do the Stone Troll models or the River Troll models.
No, it's both. It's both. Because, well, trolls are still in the book. River and Stone Trolls are still an option.
What I'm saying is if you're going to buy the new models, do you want to buy the River Trolls or the Stone Trolls or the what are they? Because there's multiple Troggoth models, right?
Well, yeah, they call them Fellwater Trolls now. Those are the old swamp river trolls.
Yeah.
And then Stone Trolls, they call them Rock Troggoths. There's only those two, and then there's a bunch of character versions. There's only those two.
But, so which one would you buy for these trolls?
For these trolls? Well, no, you actually just had me thinking there because I would use the Stone Troll models, the Rocket ones, but I would paint them a different color. Probably a gray tone for generic trolls. Because we'll just jump over to explain. So those are 35 points a model for a troll. There's also 2 more troll options that are in the rare section now instead of special. The Stone Troll and the River Troll. Now, they're 10 points more per model. The Stone Troll gains you... Oh, it's not printed here. Okay, so you have to scroll back. The Stone Troll, I'm not even going to say what it is. I can't remember exactly.
Okay, Stone Trolls have magic resistance to scaly skin.
Right. So that is worth 10 points per model for sure. The River Trolls give you River and Marsh Strider, and they're -1 to hit in close combat. That is worth 10 points for sure. The problem is they're in the rare section, and it's very competitive spot in this book. So you can never justify, in my opinion, River or Stone Trolls. So you have to use generic trolls.
Nice thing about the River and Stone Trolls, though, coming out of the rare section, is they are only unit size 1+. So you can buy like a 45-point troll and just have a troll off on its own doing things.
If it had higher leadership 4, I'd be okay with that. Alright, I gotta do a quick message. And then we'll get back to this. Sorry, everybody. I'm not editing this video, so this is gonna be part of the video.
Do 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 do.
Okay, did it. I had a hard. I gotta stop recording by a certain time, and we're there. I'm not done. I got more to say. Okay, let's talk about our... Well, okay, Ragnarok Spider, we already talked about him. He's in the rare choice. And then we have the Snotling Pump Wagon. It's a 45-point chariot that is crewed by Snotlings. It has movement 2d6. It's strength and toughness 4. With only 3 wounds. But it does 2d6 impact hits. And it's unbreakable and unstable. And there's a bunch... There's pump harder rules. You can just like make them 3 to 6 inch move. But bad things can happen. And there's a bunch of upgrades you can upgrade the pump wagon with. Do you remember what they all are off the top of your head? Because every time I make a list on Battlescribe, I cannot remember what each one of these things do.
No, and I'll tell you that the only 2 I ever take are Spiky Roller, which increases the strength of the impact hits.
That's an auto include.
Yeah,
always gonna take that.
And the Giant Exploding Spores, so that the impact hits ignore armor saves. Those are the only 2 I ever take.
I don't know if you... yeah, I guess so. So you also go Outrigger. You can make it 3-6 inch move up to a 46 inch move. You know what? That's actually not terrible. How many points is the Outrigger? Depending on how many points that is... That's 10 points for the extra movement, maybe. But there's a problem where if you put too many upgrades in this thing, it's too expensive. And then the flap is Ignore Dangerous Terrain. Not terrible, but the flap is 5 points. I don't know. I think it's a solid cherry. I only own 1, but you probably want to buy 2. Wait, I feel like
you can take 4 in an army and 8 in a grand army.
Oh, okay. I thought we missed something, but it's on the back page. Now we got the final 3 things in this book before we get to magic items are 3 fantastic. Well, you can pick which one you want to go to next. This is we'll start with the Rock Lobster.
The Rock Lobster.
Rock Lobster. 85-point stone thrower right out of the rule book. That's it. Bring 2. That's it. It's a stone thrower. It kills monsters, it kills hordes, it kills cavalry. It's 85 points. It's got leadership 6. You can pay 5 points more to get leadership 7. Just bring it. Bring 2. Nothing more to say. You can fire it every turn. And then we have the Doom Diver Catapult, one of the greatest war machines in the entire game. It is 80 points, crewed by goblins, and basically you shoot a goblin downfield, and you scatter it. It's a D6. Rules aren't here. No, it scatters artillery dice.
Yeah, and then you correct it up to D6.
And then because the projectile is a goblin with like leather wings kind of guy, he gets to redirect himself. D6 inches. And then it uses a flight stand, and every unit touched by that flight stand takes D6 strength 5 hits with no armor saves allowed. You can hit 2 units with that if they're just over an inch apart. Which is because every unit hit by the template or hit by his base gets it. It's another one of those reasons why you don't see cavalry anymore. Like it just wipes out cavalry, it destroys chaff, it picks off every heavy armored thing. D6 strength 5 hits, wounds most things in this game on a 2. It's gonna kill. It wounds most monsters on a 4. Like it's 80 points. Bring 2. From a competitive standpoint, if you don't own 2, you're kind of in trouble. And then finally, we got the Mangler Squig, 85 points. Bring 2. 85 points. Just bring 2. It's a big giant squig on I think it's a 50 mil base. It has a random movement of 3d6. Its strength 6 doesn't matter. Toughness 4, 3 wounds, initiative 3, attacks don't matter, leadership 3 doesn't matter. Its unit psychology. You know what? There's a bunch of rules, but I can basically explain it better. You direct it 3d6 and it moves all forward. If it makes contact with any unit, friend or foe, it's going to move right through them and do d6 strength 6 hits. You know what? I'm going to go to the page.
2d6.
Is it 2d6 on just a regular hit?
Yep.
And you can't charge it. You can't attack it. Your opponent can choose to move into it, and then it is immediately destroyed. But the unit that did that takes 3d6 strength 6s, an extra d6. It just kill. I used to have to fly Great Eagles into them and just trade them off. Like, okay, my Great Eagle's dead, but your Mangler's dead. And then after the Mangler does some hits a unit, because its own movement hits something, it'll then randomly move for the rest of the game. It just boings around. But your opponent will always just, if you're playing against an army with High Elves, Great Eagles, Ogres with cats, they're going to send a cheap chaff thing into it to deal with it. Armies that don't have a dirt cheap chaff thing just to walk into it, it's going to mess them up. Bring 2, put 1 in each flank, run them at the table, and don't have to worry about the tactics. Your opponent then has to deal with them instead of you. If they try to shoot at them, they are toughness 4 with 3 wounds, and they count as being in, I think it's soft cover all the time. 65 points is too cheap for this thing. Bring 2. Did I cover it?
Yes. So, takeaways. Any Goblin Artillery, Mangler Squigs, Savage Orcs, Night Goblins.
Nailed it. So we make a list, a competitive type list. You're going to see probably Fanatics, but we're going to see for sure is two Manglers, 2 Doom Divers, 2 Rock Lobsters. In my opinion, Goblin Wolf Chariots, a horde of Savage Orcs with magic item, which we'll get to in a minute, and Goblin Shamans. Do you bring a Orc Shaman when you're trying to win? Or do you want those magic dice for the goblins?
Alright, so here's the deal. I'm conflicted because in order to make the most out of that Savage Orc unit, you have to have a Savage Orc Great Shaman, because goblins can't take the Lunky Shrugging Head.
Head on. So you know what? Before you finish your thoughts, let me tell them what that does. So it is it's an arcane item for 50 points. The Lucky Shrugging Head will be taken by an Orc Shaman or Great Shaman. It increases the War Paint save of him and his unit to a 5+. And if Wurzag, a named character, is in the unit, it turns into a 4. So you have that 5-up ward save. If you're bringing that, you're paying a lot of points for him. He's got to be your caster, which means you probably don't have the points, or you don't want to. You have the points, but you don't want to put any magic dice into the goblins because you want to get some efficiency out of him, right?
But it's the shitty situation is that Goblin magic is like I don't know, 70% of the time more useful than Orc magic.
Maybe 80% of the time. But like Hand of Gork, Foot of Gork, super good. All the Goblin spells are just you got it right there. All right, let's talk about these magic items. This is one of the first books, and very few magic items, and most of them are trash. So the first one is the Battle Axe of the Last Wa for 100 points. Roll d6 at the start of each combat round. The wielder of this weapon adds that number to his attacks and strengths that round. However, the more attacks the wielder makes, the more difficult it is to control. Because of this, the weapon skill is lowered by the equal amount of half the die roll. I wouldn't pay 50 points for that, let alone 100. Terrible. Bash's Axe of Stunty Smasha is 50 points. And it gives you armor piercing and +1 attacks and strength in close combat. And if you're in base contact with dwarves, he also causes fear. This is not terrible. It's not terrible, is all I can say. Like, if you were, for example, the dwarves, when their book comes out, they have the ability to create magic items. And basically, if you gave a magic item +1 attack, +1 strength, and armor piercing, it would cost exactly the same points as this. So it is points appropriate for the way that you kind of do things, but I don't want to spend 50 points on that magic item for anything.
Here's my problem. Is you can give armor piercing to an entire unit with sneaky stabbing.
Mm-hmm. I don't think orcs need armor piercing.
No, not really. It doesn't really.
The goblins could use it. Works. I don't.
Yeah.
Armor of Gork for for a low point cost of 100. You can have heavy armor that adds D3 to your toughness, and then you gain impact attacks, which is D6 impact attacks. I mean, you would get the Choppas rule for the impact attack, and it is only 100 points for potentially just one. Okay. We already talked about the
Orcs War Banner.
Let's go to Orcs War Banner. This one
also
is
100 points.
A reasonable 100 points, and obviously it's going to be on an orc character. We'll have if you upgrade the BSB to be a black orc character, you'll have a 5 of armor save. It adds magic resistance D6. You roll every time. Isn't magic resistance 45 points?
Yes.
What? Let's say you really need that magic resistance. Why would you not pay 45 points for guaranteed 3? Guaranteed 3 over D6? Like, if this was 25 points, I would still rather pay 45 for the guaranteed 3. Terrible. Oh wait. They're about to get cheaper.
No. Hold on. There's more. In additional magic items belonging to enemy models and base to base with a bearer. Just the bearer, not the bearer's unit.
Just the bearer.
Just the bearer do not work.
Would you bring this at 50 points?
No, I would not. Definitely not. Well, I don't know. At 50 points, it could go on some unit standard bearers instead of a BSB.
Okay, 55 points.
No.
We have the Spider Banner. It can be taken by a Night Goblin only, obviously a BSB. It gives the unit poisoned attacks. And if you already have poison attacks, it is a poison on a 5+. How much would you expect to pay for that kind of banner?
55.
Fuck you, it's 85. 85 points for that banner.
Yeah, this is really the only way that you go all in on that Gift of the Spider God magic spell, because then you get poisoned on a 4+, Steve.
I'm still not doing it. Oh my goodness. No, that's not true, Kyle. Because they both say the poison goes to a 5+. It's not +1.
Okay.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well,
so it's just so bad. Okay, we have the Bad Moon Banner for only 50 points. Taken by a Night Goblin. Night Goblins become stubborn. The unit counts as being a soft cover. And the unit counts as anybody charges them takes a dangerous training test. So basically, you pay 50 points for a Night Goblin BSB to be under the effects of that one Goblin spell. I already forget what it's called.
Yeah.
Back one page.
Hey, Steve, can't you buy Crown of Command for 35 points?
Yeah, you can do that significantly cheaper, can't you?
You sure can.
And it doesn't have to go on your BSB. You can have one in your army.
Yep.
But I mean, you can buy the Crown of Command, and then you consider paying 15 points more to be under the constant effects of the Night Shroud.
Hey, Steve, how often when you play with goblins are you stubborn? Because you're steadfast with a bajillion ranks.
Well, if I'm not, I've already lost combat by there's no Mauls left alive. It's just.
Would you rather have this magic item or like 14 more goblins?
14 more goblins, or 3 more, 4 more, 2 more goblin heroes. It's just bad. Finally, the Skull Wand of Kaloth. Kaloth. Skull Wand may be taken by a shaman. It unleashes a curse on a single enemy model in base contact of the bear at the start of the close combat phase. The victim must pass leadership test using its own unmodified leadership, or be slain instantly with no save of any kind allowed. In addition, the bearer of the Skull Wand causes terror. This is 75 points. My gut says no, never, terrible. Though I do know that there have been successful tournament level, like this is ETC type stuff, lists that have that do bring this item. It's just the 75 points. It seems okay. So this means your Lord level wizard doesn't have a ward save unless he's a savage. It's always gonna be on the savage, basically. But that means you can't afford the lucky shrunken head. I mean, you can't have the lucky shrunken. So you have to have 2 shaman that have the lucky shrunken head and this in your list. I don't get. To be honest with you, I don't get it. I don't get why people. Somebody who's far more experienced with Orcs and Goblins can let us know why this is considered to be a tournament item. I can see how, yeah, it can win you a game for sure. I think it's too situational, and you give up the lucky shrunken head and you pay 75. Right? Like, you seeing anything I'm not seeing? Right. If I care about that character dying, my shaman is going to cast brain burst and stuff like that on the thing till it's dead anyway. A shaman has to be close combat.
All right. Maybe put it on a shaman on an Ragnarok that has a gigantic base. And then you can fight a unit and have your pick of the litter as to which model is in base-to-base contact that you want to take this test on.
You found a reason to possibly use it.
Alright, here's the problem, though. Is that because it's forcing the enemy to take up leadership test, because it falls into the leadership test category, that means that they get a BSB reroll on it. And it just, like, the chances of this doing anything, I feel like it just falls off the face of the earth.
You know what it's really good at? Filling a Ragnarok spiders with bad leadership. Lizardmen, Carnosaurs, and Stegatrons.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it for 75 points. But again, so many in the comments who are far more experienced with, this kind of competitive level stuff. As far as I can tell, there's only one item in this book that's ever going to see use. It's the Lucky Shrunken Head. The rest are terrible. Terrible and overcosted. Now, finally, we're done, but I got nothing to say about any special characters in this book. In my opinion, you can replicate all of them for cheaper, with the exception of Grimgore Ironhide. Ooh! I'll point out, if anybody has a Gorbad Ironclaw, an Aghad the Slaughterer, or a Grom the Paunch for sale, I wouldn't mind purchasing those. But all this, in my opinion, all the special characters, nothing to talk about. Grimgore Ironhide is not a terrible one, except for he has to bring Black Orcs with him. He's a big Black Orc leader, and he has always strikes first with a Strength 8 axe, essentially. He's pretty good for his points. The rest, I feel like you can do better by making it generic version.
His Black Orcs get hatred too, right?
Hatred everything, yeah. And I think they have higher weapons.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so this is early days of Fantasy 8th Edition. Characters, the special ones, you can just make, in my opinion, make generic. Or cheaper, or just a little bit more specialized in what you do. So there's nothing special about them, in my opinion. Do you have anything to say about any special characters that are worth pointing out? Yeah, it's early days of Fantasy.
They're cool.
They're fantastic models. Cool. I'll give them that.
Every single one has a model. Like, there aren't any characters in this book that you can't find like a GW model.
No, I think there's 2 that you can't. Because Gatilla the Hunter never had a model, and Snagga Gobspit never had a model either.
All right, I completely retract my statement.
Yeah, but the rest, I think, are like valid. Like, they're beautiful models that are worth buying. Like, I want to purchase them for the collection, and I'll use them as generic versions. So,
like
what's right?
My Warzag I use as one of my Savage Orc Shamans all the time, just because it's cool.
Yep. Now Warzag so Warzag with the shrunken head makes the squad have a 4 invuln. Is it worth it? Arguably, maybe not, maybe, who knows, but he has some uses. He has a little more to it for that. So, Orcs and Goblins, final thoughts are, I love this army. It is not top tier, but it is not bottom tier. You can play up, and you can play down. You can play every style: magic, shooting, artillery, close combat. You can avoid close combat at all costs. You can play weird, static, shenanigan things. It is any kind of style you want, I think, is here. And that's my favorite part of this book. That's it.
I think that's well said and completely reasonable.
And it's an early book. It didn't suffer from power creep. It has the worst magic items in the game. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out Squarehammer. I'll leave it a link in the description below. Follow them. Some great fantasy bat rips. I think we have all the same armies, mostly because we both have all these. No, you got some Beast of... You want to watch some Beast of Chaos bat rips? There you go. Alright, Kyle, thank you for doing this with me. Well, maybe we'll talk about doing some more. I'm sorry I didn't have more time, but this is the typical length of these books. Actually, no, you're good. That's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next one.